Okay, welcome in. I'm going to review Sunday and Monday's game. I did not get a chance to preview Monday's games, and I believe going forward, I don't have enough time to preview games because by the time uh, I'm getting ready to do the videos, some of the games have already started, and to me, it's not fair to preview games when teams are already up one, two, three goals. So I just believe from now on, I'm just going to be doing reviews on games and yeah, we'll just kind of carry on from there. So Thursday had the Colorado Avalanche taking on the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres got a huge upset win over the heavily favored Avalanche. A 4-0 was the final score. In the first period, JJ Peterka would get the first goal of the game about 10 and a half minutes into the frame. An even strength goal from Jeff Skinner. It was 1-0 after the first. Casey Middlestat would then increase the lead to 2-0 just under 2 minutes into that second period. An even strength goal from Skinner and Joki Haruju, if that's how you pronounce his name correctly. Tyson Yost would then increase the lead to 3-0, just over 8 minutes into that frame. An even strength goal from Tuck and Power was 3-0 heading into this third and final frame. Rasmus Dahlin would then increase the lead to 4-0, assisted by Tage Thompson with just over 3 minutes to go in that frame. So the final, as I said, was 4-0 from Buffalo. They are now sitting at 4-5-0, and the Avalanche are now sitting at 6-2-0. The next game that took place on Sunday happened in New Jersey, where we had the host New Jersey Devils, and they played host to the Minnesota Wild. So the Devils did get the victory. It was a very close matchup, to say the least. 4-3 was the final score. Let's take a look at the scoring summary. So Jesper Bratt will kick things off just over 6 minutes into the first. An even strength goal from Marino and Ball. Pat Maroon would then tie things up just over 5 minutes left in the period. An even strength goal from Broden and Faber. Excuse me. So it was all tied up at 1 after the first. Ryan Hartman then would give the Wild a 2-1 lead, a power play goal about 2.5 minutes into that frame, assisted by Addison and Eriksson Ek. Tyler Toffoli would get a power play goal for the Devils to tie things up just over 6 minutes into the period, assisted by Bratt and Luke Hughes. Eric Holla would then increase the lead over 30 seconds after that. No assists were on his goal. It was an even strength goal, so that gave the Devils a 3-2 lead. Jesper Bratt will get his second goal of the game, a power play goal just over 3 minutes left in that second period. A power play goal, as I mentioned, assisted by Meyer and Luke Hughes. So it was 4-2 the Devils after 2. Jake Middleton would then decrease the lead to 4-3 and getting an even strength goal from Maroon and Foligno, and that's where we would stand at that point. So the Devils are sitting at 5-2-1, and the Minnesota Wild have fallen to 3-4-2. The third game on tap for Sunday's schedule took place in Washington, where we had the didn't change the teams. We had the Washington Capitals, and where are we? And they played host to the struggling San Jose Sharks. There, got it right this time. Capitals did get the victory, not a big surprise. 3-1 was the final score. Luke Kunin would get the Sharks on the board in the first, even strength goal, just over 12 minutes, just over 8 minutes to go in the period. An even strength goal from Emberson and Ferraro. So it was 1-0 for the Sharks after the first. Dylan Strome would then tie things up just over 2 minutes into that second period. An even strength goal from Jensen and Hammond Achtel. Tom Wilson would then give the Capitals a 2-1 lead just under 5 minutes into that frame, assisted by Ovechkin and Karlsson, an even strength goal at that. And Evgeny Kuznetsov would then put the game on ice just under a minute to go in the game, assisted by Ovechkin and Karlsson. So with the victory, the Capitals are sitting at 4-3-1, while the Sharks have dropped to 0-8-1, still winless on the season. And the last game on Sunday's schedule took place in Alberta, where we had the Battle of Alberta with the Edmonton Oilers, and they played host with their provincial rival in the Calgary Flames. This was the Heritage Classic. For myself, I didn't have a whole lot of hope for either of these teams as they're both still struggling to get out of the gate. Both these teams are almost 10 games into the season, and they both only have 2 wins respectively between the two of them. The final score in this Heritage Classic was 5-2 in favor of the Oilers. McDavid did return, by the way, after missing a week. He was scheduled to miss 1 to 2 weeks, but I believe that his body is just like supernatural, and he can just recover in a freakish amount of time. So Brett Kulak would kick things off just over 4 minutes into the first, assisted by Kane and Nugent Hopkins. It was a even strength goal. Zach Hyman would then increase the lead to 2-0 just over 10 minutes into that frame, or just over 10 minutes into that frame, assisted by Draisaitl, an even strength goal as well. Nazem Kadri would then cut the lead to 2-1, a power play goal just over 5 minutes to go in that frame, assisted by Uyghur and Huberdeau. Evan Bouchard would then increase the lead to 3-1, an even strength goal from Draisaitl and McDavid. So it was 3-1 after 1. AJ Greer would get the lone goal for the Flames in the second, and the lone goal period. A power play goal from Uyghur and Jacob Markstrom. So it was 3-2 heading into the third period. Vincent Desharnais would then increase the lead to 4-2 for the Oilers, an even strength goal from Kane and Hyman. And then speaking of Evander Kane, he would ice the game just under a minute to go, an empty netter from Derek Ryan. So 5-2 was the final score. The Oilers with that victory are sitting at 2-5-1, and the Flames say that they're struggling as well. They are sitting at 2-6-1 so far on this young season. Now we'll take a look at Monday night's schedule coming right up. So the first matchup takes place in Boston, where we had 2 teams from the Atlantic who are very familiar with each other. This is the first meeting between the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins. Obviously, Boston has a little hostility after getting bounced in the first round last year after winning the President's Trophy. So the Bruins would get the victory, a little bit of vengeance, to say the least. It took until overtime, but they finally were able to defeat the Panthers. Alexander Barkov would kick things off for the Panthers in the first, an even strength goal just over 6 minutes into the period from Reinhart and Mikola. Then Reinhart with an increased lead to 2-0, just under 5 minutes to go in that frame, assisted by Barkov. So it was 2-0 for the Panthers after 1. Brad Marchand would get the lone goal in the second period, an even strength goal just under 4 minutes into that frame, assisted by DeBrusk and Charlie Coyle. And it took all the way to the third period for Charlie McAvoy to tie things up just over 7 minutes into that frame, and an even strength goal from Pasternak and Zach. Speaking of Pavel Zacha, he would get the game-winning goal in overtime. No assist on his goal, and it was an even strength goal at that, and that was about 3.5 minutes into overtime. So with the win, Boston's now sitting at 9-0-1, and the Panthers are all even up at 4-4-1. The next game on slate, I'll take us to Nevada, where we have the Vegas Golden Knights, who took on the team that I cheer for in the Montreal Canadiens. I was very shocked that it took until a shootout to decide a winner. I just felt that with the two teams, the way they're going thus far, that Vegas would have been easily dominated and walked all over the Canadiens, but the Habs stuck in there. It took until a shootout to decide a winner. 3-2 was the final score. Paul Cotter would kick things off with a power play goal just under 5 minutes to go in the first, assisted by Carlson and Pietrangelo. So it's 1-0 for Vegas heading into the second. Sean Monahan would get a short-handed goal just about 5.5 minutes into that second period. No assist on his goal. William Carrier would then increase the lead just under 2 minutes into that frame for the Vegas Golden Knights. An even strength goal from Stevenson and Jack Eichel. Nick Suzuki would tie things up just less than 5 minutes to go in the game, assisted by Harvey Pinard and Cole Caulfield. And then Shea Theodore would get the game-winning goal in a shootout. So with that victory, Vegas now improved to 9-0-1, and the Montreal Canadiens are sitting at 5-2-2. I should correct myself as well. The previous game I was talking about with the Panthers and the Bruins, the Bruins are sitting at 8-0-1, and the Panthers are at 4-3-1. Just had to make that little correction there. The next matchup takes place in Pennsylvania, where we had both teams playing, but not against one another. The first one took place in Philadelphia, and they played host to the Carolina Hurricanes. Voila. The Hurricanes would get the victory. It'd be a narrow victory. 3-2 would be the final score. Stefan Noesen would kick things off for the Hurricanes in the first, so we're 3 minutes into that frame. An even-strength goal from Svechnikov and Dmitry Orlov. Owen Tippett would tie things up just under 5 minutes left to go in the first. An even-strength goal from Sean Couturier. Garnet Hathaway would then increase the lead to 2-1 for the Flyers. Just less than 2 minutes to go in the first, assisted by Delorier and Scott Laughton. So it's 2-1 for the Flyers heading into the second. Michael Bunting would tie things up on the power play about 9 minutes into that frame, assisted by Noesen. No other goals were scored in that second, so it was all tied up at 2 heading into the third. Teuvo Teravainen would score with less than 4 minutes to go, an even strength goal from Bunting and Kotkaniemi, and that would be your game winner from Philadelphia. The Hurricanes are now sitting at 6-4-0, and the Flyers are back to 500, sitting at 4-4-1. So staying in the state of Pennsylvania, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are struggling mightily, and they played host to the Anaheim Ducks. The final score in this one was 4-3 in favor of Anaheim. Taking a look at the scoring summary. So Erik Karlsson, obviously the big acquisition for Pittsburgh, would kick things off with the power play just under 3 minutes to go. Just under 3 minutes into the period. Assisted by Malkin and Riley Smith. Jacob Silfverberg would tie things up for the Ducks about 8.5 minutes into that frame. An even strength goal from Jones and Mintyukov, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. So it's all tied up at 1 heading into the second. Frank Vatrano would get a power play goal about 12 minutes into that second, assisted by Fowler and McTavish to give the Ducks a 2-1 lead. And then Malkin would get a power play goal himself, about 35 seconds left to go in the second, assisted by Karlsson and Crosby. So it was all tied up at 2 heading into the third period. Radim Zahora would then increase the lead for the Penguins, just about 1.5 minutes into that frame, assisted by O'Connor and Eller. Mason McTavish would then score about 1.5 minutes later to tie things up. An even strength goal from Strome and Mintyukov. And then McTavish would get a short-handed goal as time was about to expire, about 13 seconds to go, to give the Ducks a 4-3 lead, and evidently a 4-3 final. His assist was from Henrique. The Ducks are now sitting at 5-4-0, while the Penguins have fallen to 3-6-0. The next matchup takes place in Tampa Bay, where we have the Lightning, who played host to the Seattle Kraken. Take a look at this matchup here. In a game that took overtime to decide a winner, the Kraken would come away victorious in this matchup. 4-3 would be the final score in OT. Brian Dumoulin would kick things off for the Kraken just under 8 minutes into that. Just under 8 minutes left in the first. An even strength goal from Schultz and Schwartz. Try saying Schultz and Schwartz 5 times fast. Yanni Gourde would then increase the lead about a minute after that. An even strength goal from Yamamoto and McCann to make it 2-0 for the Kraken. Tanner Jeannot would then, about 30 seconds after that, would decrease lead to 2-1. An even strength goal from Fleury and Radish. Kyler Yamamoto would then increase the lead with just over 4 minutes to go in the first. A power play goal from Schwartz and Tolavainen. So it was 3-1 for the Kraken after 1 period of play. There's just 1 goal to speak for in the second, and that was from Tampa's Alex Barberio. A power play goal about 3.5 minutes into that frame, assisted by Hagel and Janot. So it's 3-2 for the Kraken heading into the third period. Brandon Hagel would tie things up for the Lightning with just over 5 minutes to go, 5.5 minutes to go exactly. An even strength goal from Cirelli and Barberio. So it was obviously all tied heading into overtime. Jared McCann would get a power play goal about 3 minutes into overtime, assisted by Dunn and Bjorkstrand, as evidently 4-3 was the final score. Seattle is now sitting at 3-5-2, while the Tampa Bay Lightning are sitting at 4-2-3. Our next matchup takes place in New York, where we have the host team and the Islanders, and they took on the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings would come away victorious. It took until overtime to decide a winner, but 4-3 was the final score. Take a look at the scoring summary. So it was scoreless after one. In the second, Casey Cizikas would get a short-handed goal with about 1:20 left in the second, assisted by Bo Horvat. So it was 1-0 for the Islanders heading into the third period. Brock Nelson would then increase the lead to 2-0 just 1:05 into the third, an even strength goal from Dobson and Engvall. Daniel Sprong would cut the lead to 2-1 at just about 8 minutes into that frame, an even strength goal from Rasmussen and Wallman. Speaking of Wallman, he would then tie things up less than 2 minutes after they made it 2-1. An even strength goal from Seider and Raymond. JT Compher would then increase the lead for the Red Wings 3-2. Just over 12 minutes left. Just over 12 minutes into that frame, assisted by Seider and Kopp. Bo Horvat would then get a power play goal with just about 4 minutes left to go in the third to tie things up at 3. Lucas Raymond would get the game-winning goal in overtime about 1.5 minutes into the frame, assisted by JT Compher. So with that victory, the Detroit Red Wings are sitting at 6-3-1, and the New York Islanders are sitting at 4-2-2. Our next matchup takes place in the province of Manitoba, where we have the Winnipeg Jets, and they played host to the New York Rangers. Now, typically, this wouldn't be that big of a deal for a matchup, but obviously in the offseason, the Jets let go of their longtime captain, Blake Wheeler. He then signed a 1-year contract with the Rangers. So this was his first game playing against his former team, and they had a little tribute video, and that was kind of nice. I didn't end up watching that. So good on the Jets for playing that, and the fans for saluting their former captain. So the final in this game was 3-2. It did go to an overtime. So the Rangers obviously got 2 points. The Jets, even though they lost in overtime, still got a point out of this matchup. Terry Panarin would kick things off in the first, but 1.5 minutes left in the frame. An even strength goal from Trouba and Miller. David Gustafsson would then score about a minute after that to tie things up at 1, assisted by Perfetti. So it's all tied up at 1, heading into the second, where there were no goals in the second, so it's still tied at 1, heading into the third period. Nick Ehlers would then increase the lead just over 5 minutes into the third, an even strength goal from Perfetti and Shifley. Chris Kreider would then tie things up just under 7 minutes to go, a power play goal from Fox and Panarin. In overtime, the game might be going to a shootout, but with just about 30 seconds to go, Mika Zibanejad would win the game for the Rangers. An even strength goal from Panarin and Miller. So 3-2 was the final, as I said. With the victory, the Rangers, who are red hot, are sitting at 7-2-0, and the Winnipeg Jets are sitting at 4-3-2. 2 more games left to cover. Our next matchup takes place in the state of Texas. Where we have the Stars, and they were playing host to the Columbus Blue Jackets. The final in this one was 5-3 in favor of the Stars, who are off to a fantastic start. I will get to the record as soon as I'm done going over the scoring summary. So Thomas Harley would kick things off just under 30 seconds to go in the first, as the fans are barely getting into the seats. They're standing, obviously, for the first goal of the game. He would get an even strength goal from Robertson and Hintz. Dmitry Voronkov would then tie things up with just almost 5 minutes into the frame. An even strength goal from Sillinger and Johnson. And Damon Severson would then increase the lead to 2-1 just over 6 minutes to go in that first, assisted by Fantilli and Werenski, an even strength goal. It was 2-1 heading into the second. The lone goal in the second took place just about 6 minutes into the frame from Roop Hintz, an even strength goal from Robertson and Lundqvist. So it was all tied up at 2 heading into the third period. And that's when the floodgates started to open. Matt Duchene would increase the lead to 3-2 for the Stars, just about 3 minutes into that frame. An even strength goal from Sutter and Marchment. Evgeny Dononov would then increase the lead to 4-2 with about 7 minutes left to go in the game, assisted by Johnston and Ben. And speaking of Johnston, he would then increase the lead to 5-2, with just about 3.5 minutes left in that frame, assisted by Dandonov and Ben. Sean Corelli would then score less than a minute after that to decrease the lead to 5-3, but it was just about 2 minutes 50 seconds left in the frame at that point. An even strength goal from Perovov and Oliver, and they weren't able to get any other goals after that. So 5-3 was the final score. The Blue Jackets are now sitting at 3-4-2, while the Stars are still looking really good. After 7 games, they're sitting at 5-1-1. The last game on tap took place in Arizona, where we have the host Coyotes, and they played host to the Chicago Blackhawks. It was a blowout, to say the least. 8-1 was the final score. I don't think I ever would have predicted that as the final score, but it was. It's like a baseball score, in my opinion. Connor Bedard will kick things off in the first. About 30 seconds into the first with that, an even strength goal from Korchinski and Seth Jones. After that, it was all Arizona. Michael Carcoon would then tie things up about 2.5 minutes into that first, assisted by Cooley and Dursey. Josh Brown would then increase the lead about 6 minutes left in the frame. An even strength goal from McBain and Kerfoot. Michael Carcoon, or whatever his name is, would then get a second goal of the game with about 4 minutes and 5 seconds left in the first. A power play goal from Krause and Bajustad. So it was 3-1 heading into the second period. Michael Carcone would then get a hat trick, get his third goal of the game, and an even strength goal about 5 minutes into that frame, assisted by Boyd. Jake McBain, with an increased lead to 5-1, about a minute and 40 seconds after that. An even strength goal from Kerfoot and O'Brien. Sean Dursey would then make the game 6-1 at that point, with just under 9 minutes to go in the period, assisted by Carcone and Boyd. Liam O'Brien would then increase the lead to 7-1 with less than 5 minutes to go, assisted by McBain and Marcelli, so it was 7-1 after 2. And then the lone goal to speak of in the third happened about 10.5 minutes into the period. Jake McBain would score, assisted by Kerfoot. So 8-1 was the final score. Arizona has now evened up the record 4-4-0, and Chicago is now sitting at 3-6-0. As always, if you like this type of content, feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative at the same time. And as always, take care.